Hey everyone, I am Peter from Top Think, and today we are going to learn about introverts versus extroverts and who wins. Now, let's begin. Before we pit these two personality types against each other, we're going to break down exactly what it means to call someone an introvert or an extrovert, because most people actually use these terms incorrectly. Let's say you come across two strangers and only know one thing about each of them. For example, you find out that Mark gets good grades while Andrew plays football. Just based off that information, can you tell who's the introvert and who's the extrovert? The vast majority of people will automatically label Mark the introvert and Andrew the extrovert, even though it's completely possible for an extrovert to be intelligent and an introvert to be athletic. So what does this tell us? First of all, it shows that our society has popularized a certain stereotype for each category, grouping these similar traits together to paint a picture of what the average introvert or extrovert looks like. In this case, you probably assumed Mark was the introvert because people who get good grades may spend more time alone studying. On the other hand, you may have guessed that Andrew is around people way more often because he's on a sports team, so it's more likely that he's the extrovert. Or maybe you just thought that nerds are introverts and jocks are extroverts. No matter how you actually got there, the stereotype did its job. So why am I telling you all of this? Because introversion and extroversion are ultimately just parts of our personality, not definitions of who we should be or what we can do. These traits can certainly lead to some remarkable personality differences, or else this video would be kind of pointless. But don't panic if you're an extrovert that's always dreamed of becoming a forensic analyst, even though it's often cited as one of the best jobs for introverts to have. Having said all that, you also shouldn't pretend that being an introvert or extrovert won't influence your future at all. These two traits are mainly used to describe our social aptitude, but our social behaviors have a hand in some of the most important aspects of our lives, like our friendships, jobs, and romantic relationships. They also play a major role in how we see ourselves, how we develop confidence, and how we communicate with the rest of the world. Because of how important our social preferences are, people have been asking one particular question for decades. Is it better to be an introvert or an extrovert? Some people may try to tell you that neither one is better than the other, but that just isn't true. Plenty of research has been conducted on this subject, which has unveiled that one personality type is undisputably better. But here's the catch. The winner depends almost entirely on the situation itself. In other words, both introverts and extroverts have carved out their own niches in the world, discovering unique environments where their personality type allows them to excel. Oftentimes, their increased ability actually has nothing to do with how social they are, but instead is a product of years and years of being either introverted or extroverted. Studies have shown, for example, that introverts are significantly better than extroverts at standing in lines. Yes, I know, this isn't really something to brag about, but why do you think introverts have this weird edge over their counterparts? Psychologists have hypothesized a number of reasons, like that introverts are generally more patient than extroverts, or that they're better at silently entertaining themselves. But my point is that these products of our social preferences are primarily what allow introverts to beat extroverts, or the other way around. So that leaves us with one major question. Where specifically does each personality type excel? Let's start with introverts first, because the popular stereotype associated with introverts has almost always been surprisingly negative, despite the fact that introverts actually shine way brighter than extroverts in all kinds of areas. Many people tend to associate introverts with people who are reclusive, socially awkward, or lonely. While there may be people who fit this bill, introverts are actually just as, if not more likely, to be confident and self-assured than extroverts. They just show and develop their confidence a lot differently. Because introverts prefer spending time alone or with close friends, they rarely fall into the trap of measuring their self-worth according to how many friends they have or how many people they've dated. They also tend to be more perceptive, observant, and curious, which is one of the many reasons why introverts make great scientists and engineers. Introverts enjoy thinking and dreaming, and, in fact, a majority of the most innovative artists and philosophers throughout history were infamous introverts. Similarly, introverts tend to pick up and enjoy all kinds of hobbies, while taking pride in their ability to excel at something the rest of the world may never understand. This is why artistic, independent jobs as writers, programmers, graphic designers, and more tend to appeal to more introverts than extroverts. But careers aren't the only area where introverts excel. Believe it or not, introverts tend to be better at maintaining long-term relationships. They're usually better listeners, are much more direct, and make bigger investments in their partners. While introverts may be a bit quiet at the start of the relationship, introverts often get deeper and more interesting over time. It also doesn't hurt that introverts generally come off as more mysterious than extroverts, which plenty of people find irresistible. Similarly, being friends with an introvert comes with its perks. Introverts are usually uncomfortable or worn down when they are surrounded by lots of people, which makes them seem shy or socially awkward to the untrained eye. However, introverts tend to come alive in small groups, especially with people they know really well. They may not like small talk, but any introvert will tell you that longer, deeper conversations are much better anyway. Despite all of these positive characteristics, there are a number of areas where introverts lose out to extroverts almost every single time. One of the biggest disadvantages of spending so much time in your own head is that introverts tend to overanalyze their own behavior, making them more prone to social anxiety. While this is not true of all introverts, they can become socially fearful, causing them to shy away from new people or opportunities. Because introverts do genuinely enjoy keeping to themselves, they can end up disliked at work or school simply because it's a lot harder to get to know an introvert than an extrovert. For the same reason, introverts can get left out, struggle to meet new people, and be consistently overshadowed by someone who's more socially adept. If introverts have had a history of overly negative stereotypes, extroverts have definitely had the opposite. Because extroverts are more friendly and social, extroversion has been considered the superior of the two personality types for some time. Part of this is due to the fact that extroverts commonly misunderstand the whole concept of being an introvert, which at least partially explains why people think shyness and introversion mean the same thing. Stereotypes will tell you that being extroverted is always better than being introverted. But is it actually that one-sided? First and foremost, extroverts have the advantage of enjoying most social situations, preferring to be surrounded by people instead of being cooped up in a room by themselves. Extroverts have a much easier time making friends than introverts because small talk doesn't seem like a chore to them. Extroverts make meaningful connections with other people in short bursts, establishing lasting friendships without needing to dive into anything deeper. In their careers, extroverts like opportunities to socialize and draw from other people's energy, which is why they excel in sales, teaching, event planning, and just about any job that involves networking. But that doesn't mean extroverts can't be talented artists. In fact, most actors and actresses rely on their ability to socialize with other people to build their careers, not just to make connections, but to empathize with people who lead lives very different from their own. When it comes to relationships, it's no secret that extroverts tend to have more romantic partners than introverts, but that doesn't mean they are more successful. Extroverts usually have more active, exciting relationships because they enjoy regularly injecting some variety into their lives. They have an easier time expressing their feelings to their partner and actually feel more relaxed when they can get their emotions out in the open. It's rare for an extroverted relationship to stagnate, simply because they're good at entertaining themselves and other people. But just like with introverts, extroverts come with their own set of flaws. While it takes a special kind of person to shine when they're the center of attention, that attention-seeking mindset can backfire, especially when the spotlight moves onto someone else. This can be rough on friends and partners of really extroverted people, because that person is going to steal all of the attention more often than not. While introverts are looked down on for being strange or distant, extroverts are often ridiculed for being shallow, self-centered, and oblivious. They're often the happiest when other people are paying attention to them, which can lead to some deep-seated insecurities. So, if you're wondering whether one personality type is definitely better than the other, you need to ask yourself, better for what? Because the answer is out there, but there are just too many definitions of love, happiness, and success to always pick one